Everybody ready? All right. I call to order this meeting of the Conejo Open Space Conservation Agency of February 8th, 2017. May we have the flag salute, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Director Bill De La Pena.
Present.
Director Fox.
Here.
Vice Chair Gibson.
Yes.
Director Jones.
Here.
Chair Sky.
Here. So our first happy item on the agenda is a recognition of Mark Langton. I think you all know Mark has been as soon as he turns his phone on. Okay. Oh, okay. That's all right. As you know, he's been an absolutely stalwart member of the Conejo Open Space Trails Advisory Committee, among many other posts. And Mark, would you come up to the podium? And we have a plaque for you. First off, I won't read all the whereases, but at least a few. You were a founding member of COSCA since 1989 and serving as its chairperson for 7 years. You've been an absolutely stalwart and active proponent of multi-use trails for bicycles, hikers, and equestrians since 1987. And you facilitated the creation of a strong, united, and inclusive trail user community, thereby making the Conejo Open Space Trail System model of user cooperation. You're also a founding member of the foundation since 1995. You've been its secretary for more than 13 years. You're part of the coordinating the annual trail work days and master of ceremonies for the trail safety and courtesy workshops during trails education days. And you've been a driving force behind important outreach events such as our the foundation's awareness bell program and Corba, the Concerned Off-Road Bicyclists Association's Mountain Bike Skills Program. So now therefore, I, Rory Skay, Chair of the Board, on behalf of the Board, do hereby commend Mark Langton.
Thank you very much. I feel like I'm going to hear somebody saying, Mark, do you recognize this voice? Some of you got that.
This is your life.
Well, that pretty much says it. I mean, all I can tell you is, when I started doing it, it was just, I figured, why wouldn't I do it? And throughout the years, there have been so many people who've been mentors and educators and supporters, and a lot of them are in this room right now, and I just can't begin to say how much I appreciate everybody's support and everybody's, working together. And when I started doing this, we were involved with multi-use situations in not just the Conejo Valley and COSCA, but also Santa Monica Mountains National Recreation Area, State Parks and National Park Service. And the things that we were finding were that there were different factions of management at the different agencies. And all I can tell you is that COSCA managers from the very beginning, and I remember sitting in the room when the CRPD board said, COSCA and CRPD said, hey, let's let them all figure it out. Let's make it all multi-use and they can figure it out. And it has become, that attitude has become a model for shared use trails across not just the state, not just the region, but the state and the country. And all I can say is that the vision of the people that created that is still going strong, and it's still going strong with the people who I have been working with, who will continue to carry on COSTAC and the foundation. And so I'm just glad to have been a part of it. So thank you again for this. It's very much appreciated.
Thank you, Mark.
I was going to say, Rory, he must have been about 10 years old when he started.
Just a wee lad, indeed.
28 years, is it?
At least. Okay. We'll go on to, we don't have any public comments on matters not on the agenda. Presentations and announcements.
I think we do have one.
Oh, all right. Shall we wait? You can fill it out later if you like, and then just come to the mic.
Good evening. I'm going to read this, if that's all right.
And if
Okay.
you'd state your name, please.
Yes, my name's Tom Pagano. I'm a resident of Thousand Oaks since 1964 and currently live in Dos Vientos. Excuse me, how much time do I have, roughly? Okay, I should only need about 3 or 4. Okay. I'm here to talk about Caneo Mountain. Caneo Mountain is an important part of our community, and excuse me, I had to rush over here. While I don't know if I speak for everyone in the community, I can say that the mountain is an important part of our lives in Dos Vientos. We view it every day, and many people, including myself, hike or bike the mountain on a regular basis and have done so for decades, personally. There are over 160 bike riders who have logged their rides up into Caneo Mountain on Strava, with about 50 of them added last year. Of course, views from the top are unparalleled in the Caneo Valley, with views of the ocean, Channel Islands, and the landscape from Ventura to Agora. The mountain has burned several times in the last decade, from small fires near the 101 to the large Camarillo Springs fire in 2013 that burned all the way to the ocean. Mudslides continue to plague those whose homes are adjacent to the mountain, and the historical flora and fauna have been decimated. With the recent rains, we see new life on the mountain, but it does not resemble its former self. Trail maintenance is non-existent, and new trails have sprouted up where they probably should not exist. The Edison Road up and over into the mountains is graded and well maintained for the most part by Edison, but has suffered from recent rains. Management of the mountain ecosystem is important to maintaining its value as a natural preserve for sensitive species, a wildlife corridor, and a desirable recreation area for the community. Now, I'm concerned that in 2012, the property was purchased by Tom Staben, who also is owner of Pacific Rock, who operates the rock quarry on Caneo Mountain. Staben has extensive capability for moving earth and has violated regulations in the past. I've seen people from his company driving on the mountain and grading of the landscape that I reported, but after some investigation, it turned out to be within the depth of the allowable permit. So there has been grading on it, but apparently it was okay to do so after the fact, after they looked into it. So I believe the area is zoned to allow development of some kind, but I'm not aware of the owner's intentions for the mountain. So as you're most likely aware, the National Park Service recommended expanding the boundary of the Santa Monica Mountains National Recreation Area to include the 313,000 of acres of land, including Caneo Mountain. Mountains identified as having rare and endemic plant and fossil resources. The Pleasant Valley Recreation and Park District ranked Caneo Mountain 3 out of 4 as areas designated for high priority acquisition. We're planning on attending the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy meeting February 27th to express our hopes that they will include Caneo Mountain in their list of high priority acquisitions. I understand that COSCA has already included Caneo Mountain in their list, and I would like to thank you for showing the interest and hope that you are successful. I put together a newsletter and have contacted as many people as I know who can give their testimony on the 27th. I don't expect a lot of folks to attend. I don't have a lot of connections, and I'm not really kind of new at this, but I have a few who have expressed their support in absentia. So again, I want to thank you for your support and appreciate your time, and wish you the best of success in acquiring Caneo Mountain as a park for us in the Caneo Valley.
Thank you, Mr. Pagano. Let's go on to our Trails Advisory Committee. Steve Bacharach.
Hi, Steve Bacharach. I'm Thousand Oaks resident, and I'm the Caneo Open Space Trails Advisory Committee chairperson, trying to fill some very big shoes, as you heard earlier, Mark Langton. So he was been kind of a mentor for me for a couple of years informally, so hopefully I can carry on at least in some semblance of what he's managed to do the last couple of decades. A few things to report on. The Open Space Challenge runs from March 1st to May 31st. I think some literature on that. I think it was probably included in the agenda somewhere in there at the flyer. So that's basically a virtual event where people go out on trails and log their trails, and then they enter a contest and raffles for prizes. And We had about 50 people last year, kind of grows every year. This is the 6th year we've been doing that. The Spring Trail Workday is on March 18th. We talked about it Monday night, but I've already forgotten where we're doing that. Okay, well, yeah, so that's right. So we've determined the location and the logistics on that already, so that's going forward as planned. And then we have Trails Education Days, April 24th to 28th. And so once again, we get hundreds of fourth graders out there to experience the open space. So that's it.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Do we have a report from Anna on the volunteer corps activity?
Let's try that again. Hello, Madam Chair and COSCA board members. Our Volunteer Corps program has accomplished a variety of activities since our last meeting, and here are a few details. We continue to hold trailhead outreach events, with the most recent having occurred at the main Wildwood Trailhead on November 12th. During the 4-hour outreach event, our volunteers observed 427 trail users and were able to make contact with and survey 54. On this occasion, the parking lot was full by 7:30 a.m., and 300 hikers had already visited the area by 9 a.m. Highlights of what we learned include that more than 50% of the respondents said that they visit open space weekly. Most visitors are hikers, and in addition to Wildwood, the most popular open space areas among respondents were Los Robles and Lang Ranch. And most respondents are from Ventura County, although Santa Barbara and Los Angeles counties were also represented. Then, with regard to the Trail Watch and Trail Adoption programs, we logged the following for November and December. For Trail Watch, we had 71 reports submitted and 97.4 hours donated for a year-end total of 425 reports and 651.8 hours. For this year, we're already off to a great start. We've had 35 reports and 53 hours for January. And on Adopt a Trail, we had 30 reports submitted and 60 hours donated for November and December, for a year-end total of 197 reports and 457 hours. For January, we're also off to a good start. We have 22 reports and 59.75 hours. To date, we have 51 volunteers that have adopted 63 trails. And I also wanted to share that we are also working with volunteers from the Conejo Open Space Foundation on habitat restoration at 3 locations in the Western Plateau, Conejo Canyons area. The first is on a small hilltop in the central portion of the Western Plateau, and the second 2 are both near the main utility road that accesses the plateau. The first project involved making seed balls and then placing them out to help degraded areas on the hilltop revegetate, and the second 2 consisted of manually broadcasting a native seed mix and planting cactus pads to help revegetate sections of trail that are being decommissioned. And we have a brief PowerPoint so you can see what our volunteers have been able to accomplish. And if anyone has any questions, just let me know.
Thank you. Any questions of Ms. Huber? Thank you. Always impressive for the number of volunteers we get and all the great activity and helpfulness that they provide.
Yeah, we're fortunate to have a really enthusiastic base of volunteers, because without them we couldn't accomplish as much as we do.
Indeed. We will then go on to approval of minutes of November 9th. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Moved, and we'll give you the second.
Okay,
Director
good.
Bill Della Pena. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any noes? Any abstentions? There we go. All right. On to election of chair and vice chair, annual event. Shelley?
Thank you, Madam Chair. According to Section 12 of the COSCA Manual of Procedure, the COSCA Board shall elect a chair and vice chair at their first regular meeting of the year. Directors Skay and Gibson are currently serving as chair and vice chair, respectively, as you know. A 10-year history of the chair and vice chair position is provided on page 7 of your packet. Thank you.
Okay. What is the pleasure of the board? Director
Well,
Fox?
looks to me like
So I'm going to nominate.
Director Fox has the chair.
I'm going to nominate Chair Skay to continue to serve as the board chair.
Okay.
I'll second that.
All right. Any other nominations? Well, any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any noes or abstentions? Okay.
I was going to. Are you ready for a nomination for vice chair?
Yes, sir.
Looks like it is Claudia's turn based on the previous activity. So if that is correct, I would like to nominate Claudia Bilde La Pena for vice chair.
I'll second that.
So been moved and seconded. Any other discussion or nominations? Nominations are closed. All in favor of Director Bill De La Pena as vice chair, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any noes? Any abstentions? Congratulations. Okay, on to the main event. This is item 7B. The agenda item is titled Consider Acquisition of 82 Acres of Open Space from the Rasnow Family for habitat protection and to ensure continued public access on the Los Robles Trail, located at the south end of Ventu Park Road, 1 mile south of Lynn Road. Ms. Mason?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a PowerPoint, but before I begin, I would just like to introduce you to the people sitting up here on the staff dais with me. Down here, we have Bill Pham. He is with the Pham Law Group, and he is our outside legal counsel. He's an expert in real property law, and he has helped with the negotiations for the proposed acquisition. So he's available to answer questions after the presentation. And then directly to my left, we have Mark Town. You may remember him, former COSCA manager, and currently he is the community development director. Open space expert extraordinaire. So, and then Patrick Heher is also here at the very end, and you might also remember him as the former COSCA attorney. He's also the assistant attorney for the city of Thousand Oaks, and he has been working on this project for the past 4 years, so he's very familiar with it. So he's also available to answer questions. So now we'll get started with. And Felicia Liberman is here too. She's the COSCA attorney currently, and she's been involved with this project, but Patrick is sort of taking the lead since he's been here
So many attorneys.
for the duration. I know.
Are you violating some kind of Brown Act or something?
Trying not to violate anything. So now we'll get started with the PowerPoint. Okay, so this is a vicinity map just to show you where this property is located. It is at the southern end of Upper Ventu Park Road, and it's south of the 101 freeway is here, and then Lynn Road is here, and this is where the subject property is located up here. So very southern end of the city of Thousand Oaks. Here's a great view of the property looking south from Tarantula Hill. So it's this sort of stretch of property here. You can see the Ventu Park open space here to the west, and the Rosewood Trail goes up here, and then the Hope Nature Preserve open space is over here, and the existing Los Robles Trail, I don't know if you can see it from this distance, but it basically goes across here. And then, of course, Boney Mountain and the Santa Monica Mountains are in the distance, and this is the south end of Ventu Park Road. And this road that cut through here is the Rasnow access road that we'll be talking about, but it basically bisects the acquisition property. Okay. Now this is a view of all of the property that the Rasnows own up in the Rasnow Peak area, which is in the Southern Ridge open space area. And it is adjacent, as I mentioned, to the Hope Nature Preserve to the east and the Ventu Park open space to the west and north here. And so this property is actually outside of city limits. It's in county unincorporated area, but it's within the CRPD boundary. So therefore it's within the COSCA boundary because we have a shared boundary between the city and CRPD. The Rasnows purchased this property in 1963 and have continued to acquire lots in the area to protect the hillside and to create a buffer between their development on the top of the hill, which is basically here. It's sort of the lighter areas that you can see through the yellow, and the development in the upper Ventu Park area. So these are the other just residential development here. And then this is all natural land through here that they own. So to give you a little background, back in October 2012, the Rasnow family offered a portion of their 193-acre property to COSCA. The property offered is about 82 acres in size, and it contains 3 miles of the Los Robles Trail, which is a key linkage in the ring trail around the city of Thousand Oaks, as shown on the trail master plan. It's an important wildlife corridor, and it is also part of the ring of open space around the city of Thousand Oaks that was envisioned in the original general plan and is still identified in the general plan today. This graphic shows the area that is proposed for transfer to COSCA. So the blue area is the 82 acres that's proposed for transfer. The Rasnows own all of the yellow and all of the blue currently. So you can see that the road that the Rasnows use to access their property up here, is going to remain under their ownership. So that's why that's still shown in yellow. This is a graphic we created to show what the open space configuration would look like were this acquisition to be approved. So again, Ventu Park open space, and then this is Hope Nature Preserve, and this acquisition would connect the two already preserved open space areas and create a really important permanent wildlife movement corridor between those two areas across this property, and also protect the trail corridor, of course, permanently. I want to talk about kind of the makeup of this property that's proposed for acquisition now. So it's made up of 50 separate parcels. 39 are complete parcels and 11 are partial parcels, which means that we'll have to do land divisions for 11 of the parcels that are proposed for transfer. So the Rasnows would keep a portion, and then COSCA would have a portion transferred to their ownership. And I'm going to show this graphic while I describe it a little bit more. So the property here, you can see it's a north-facing slope. It's very steep terrain, all hillside terrain, and it's densely vegetated with chaparral, and there are some oak trees in some of the drainages. The access road, as I mentioned before, bisects the area proposed for transfer, and the Rasnows will retain ownership of that road. And this, the property proposed for transfer also contains a small amount of off-site brush clearance from some of the houses that are developed down the hill on separate properties, and then a couple of minor encroachments from fences that have been built onto the Rasnow property that then would be transferred to us. The land in this area was subdivided into small cabin and campsite lots back in the 1920s. Very small, meaning a lot of them were 1/4 of an acre or less in size, some of them 1/10 of an acre. So development in this area is not practical due to the terrain, the size of the lots, the lack of utilities, and the lack of road improvements. In 1985, Ventura County approved a mandatory lot merger to create larger lots that would be closer in size to their 20-acre minimum lot size. So some of the Rasnow lots were required to be merged at that time. Basically, lots that were owned by the same owner and were adjacent to each other were required to be merged so that they would be more developable, essentially. In that area, there are also a lot of third-party owners, and many of those were not required to be merged because they were owned individually. So the small lots were each owned by different people. There are 47 of those third-party parcels adjacent to or surrounded by the open space that is proposed for a transfer. those are shown in this graphic in light blue. So this is the largest of those, and then there's some other here, and then just a lot of small parcels throughout. COSCA, over the past 5 or so years, has acquired 11 of these third-party parcels, so you can see those are shown in green here. When we realized that portions of our trail were over private property that wasn't owned by the Rasnows, that wasn't included in our license agreement, you might remember the COSCA board decided to acquire those parcels. So many of them contain portions of the trail in this area. And we will continue to work to acquire those should the Rasnow acquisition go through, so we can try to fill in those gaps and avoid, third parties owning so many parcels. As I said, this project was proposed in 2012, so it's been going on for over 4 years. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about some of the work that's gone into getting the project to this point where we're hoping to move the acquisition forward. So staff performed analysis of the property history and characteristics of the property initially when the project was proposed. Prepared a number of GIS maps showing existing owners and where those mandatory mergers were required, what lots were affected by those, and then a number of maps to try to determine exactly which properties were being offered for acquisition. We met with city and county staff a number of times. The county meetings were to understand parcel configurations and ownerships, and the process needed to divide the parcels merged through the mandatory merger. Which is it could have been complicated because they were required to be merged, but because we are going to be dividing some of them for conservation purposes, it's a cleaner thing to do, so shouldn't be a problem. And then we met numerous times with our outside counsel, Bill Pham, who I introduced, to identify potential title issues, determine third-party access rights, and negotiate related issues with the Rasnow's attorney. We ordered 4 title reports, 2 for Rasnow-owned properties and 2 for third-party properties, basically to see what sort of easements we might be dealing with, what sort of chain of title issues we could have that we might need to deal with if we were to end up taking the property. And then we discussed through multiple meetings with the Rasnows what exactly were the parameters of this acquisition, and really refined the offer and what the conditions would be for the offer. And then the COSCA board formed the ad hoc committee of Rory Skay and Claudia Bill de la Pena in 2015, and we've had a number of meetings with the ad hoc committee since then. Okay. So, as you know, this area is actually a high priority on the COSCA's priority list for acquisition as open space. And you can see here in red, this is the property we're talking about. It was identified on the original priority list that was created in 1996 and approved by the COSCA board. So this has been a priority for a long time. And it is also a city council priority. As the council members know, for the fiscal year 16-17, it's one of the top 10 priorities. That is to complete the review of the potential Rasnow open space acquisition. So this is a critical step in the city's long-term efforts to permanently protect open space. And as you can see from this map, it's a great connection in terms of wildlife and trail and just habitat continuity. A little background about the trail. In 1983, Harmon Rasnow and former CRPD General Manager Tex Ward negotiated the license agreement to allow the trail construction and public access across their property. So we are very grateful, and I think that the residents of Thousand Oaks have been grateful since then to have access across this trail. So that was a really important deal that they negotiated back in 1983, and I think it was really forward thinking and really a great gift to the community to allow that trail connection through there. And here is the trail. So again, here's the open space that's proposed for acquisition. The trail that goes across the Rasnow property right now is this one. And again, it connects to the Rosewood Trail here in the Ventura Park open space and to the Hope Nature Preserve over here, this is the Los Robles Trail, and it connects to the Space Mountain section of the Los Robles Trail. Ownership of the underlying land for this trail is really key to the long-term preservation of the trail access here. There are really no alternative trail alignments that could be built because the Rasnows own all of this property here, and then really you would have to go down to Lynn Road to get between these two open space areas or go through Hidden Valley, and it's unlikely we'd be able to get a trail easement back there. Also, the existing license agreement has a 90-day revocation clause in it should unforeseen problems arise that could not be resolved. So while the trail has been in place since 1983, it's really been a gift to have it open, and it could, go away within 90 days at any time, essentially. So I just want to make sure that everybody understands that. Okay. So in order to move this acquisition forward, the Rasnows had some conditions that we need to fulfill, or that COSCA needs to fulfill in order to make it a good deal for everybody, basically. So we need to reroute the trail below the existing gate. And here's a graphic of a conceptual trail alignment here. So the yellow is the conceptual realignment, and the green is the existing trail. So this conceptual alignment was developed by our rangers, who are trail experts. They've built a lot of trails, and it follows as closely as possible to our trail building standards. Now, again, this is conceptual, so we will refine it in the field, and we will work with the Rasnows to come up with an alignment that they are agreeable to as well. So this is not the final alignment. I just want to say that, but this is the best that we have come up with so far, just by visiting the area in the field and the rangers analyzing the topography out there. And additionally, it avoids third-party parcels. So like I showed you in that map before, there are 47 third-party parcels within the area that we are proposing for acquisition. So they're dotted throughout this area. So we had to be careful to avoid those parcels, and this alignment does. Okay, so just a couple of other conditions. We would need to install trail fencing where the trail is close to the road and at the road crossing. So the trail is close to the road along on the north side of the road along much of about probably half a mile of the road. So we would need to install fencing there to keep trail users from going up to the road. And then in some other areas that the Rasnows have identified that we'll work with them in the field to put fencing up. So there are some areas where people have just built volunteer trails that are not, sanctioned trails. So we'll work with them to install that fencing. And I'll get to the cost of that in a moment. We will also need to put up signage at the road crossing to direct people to stay on the trail, as well as to not park on the road around where the trail crossing is, and to not go down the road, essentially, to just cross the road and stay on the trail on either side. We'll also, as I mentioned, be accepting ownership of parcels that contain offsite brush clearance, which is an added expense for us, though it's minor because it's a small area, and then 3 encroachments of fencing onto the open space. Now I'll talk a little bit about the costs of this acquisition. So the Rasnows have offered this property to us, so there is no actual payment to the Rasnows that would take place. But these costs that I'm going to talk about are the costs of the transfer of the property, and I'll go through all the costs. But the Rasnows are offering to donate the property to us. So the upfront costs are estimated at $499,000, and this expense would need to go to the City Council for approval, and we are proposing that it would come out of the Community Recreation and Open Space Facilities Endowment Fund, or CROSF, which is also known as the Open Space Endowment Fund. So the current balance is $1.9 million in that fund, and this would equate to about $6,085 an acre for the 82 acres that are proposed for acquisition. Now, kind of our average amount that we spend per acre on this sort of open space is about $40,000 an acre. So this is significantly less than that amount. The ongoing expenses are estimated at $9,600 annually. COSCA's operations and maintenance budget for fiscal year 16-17 is $1.4 million. So $9,600 is less than 1% of that budget. And that amount is also shared 50-50 by the city and by CRPD. So these are the details of the upfront costs. So we're estimating about $60,000 for the fencing that I mentioned. And then to realign the trail below the existing gate, it's going to be about $200,000 because it's a long distance. It'll require approximately 1.5 miles of additional trail construction. And the terrain is steep and densely vegetated there, as I mentioned, so it's a very technical trail to build. So this is the biggest expense out of this list. $12,000 to resolve the 3 encroachments, and then $107,000 for the parcel surveys and legal descriptions. So we'll need to do the surveys for the 11 partial parcels, and then those legal descriptions will need to be written by the surveyor. We need to get title reports for all of the parcels, so the 50 parcels, and that's estimated at $20,000, and then the legal fees are estimated at about $100,000. Okay, then the ongoing costs include the brush clearance at $500 a year and ongoing maintenance, ongoing management of the open space as $9,100 a year, so $9,600 total for ongoing costs. In terms of next steps, if the board approves this acquisition and recommends that the City Council approve the fund expenditure, staff will present the report to the City Council for consideration. If the expenditure is approved by the City Council, then staff will present the report to the Conejo Recreation and Park District Board for information, then prepare the donation agreement and legal documents in conjunction with our outside legal counsel and with our COSCA attorneys, secure and review the title reports. That will also be done with our legal counsel. Secure the survey and legal descriptions for the partial parcels and prepare the grant deeds and the trail easement for the trail that will cross the road. Okay. In conclusion, the completion of this acquisition will close a gap in the planned ring of open space, as we saw on those maps. It will ensure continued public access to the Los Robles Trail, and it will protect the highly visible natural hillsides along the south side of the city, which are visible from almost anywhere in the city, really. The Rasnow Ad Hoc Committee recommends that the board approve this acquisition and COSCA ownership of the 82 acres of open space in the Southern Ridge area, subject to approval of the title reports by staff, and recommend that the City Council approve the funds needed to complete this land transfer, and authorize the board secretary to execute the necessary documents to complete the acquisition, including accepting the grant deeds and the trail easement. And that is the end of my formal presentation, and I would just like to thank some people who have been really integral in this process and who without them this wouldn't have been possible. So I really want to give a deep thanks to the Rasnow family, to Tina and Eleanor who are here, and to Brian Rasnow. for offering this land to COSCA. This is a very generous offer, and it's key open space in the ring of open space, and it's key wildlife habitat, and of course a key trail corridor. So we thank you for letting the community use your property and use the trail for all of these years, and thank you for this offer to dedicate the property. We also are grateful, like I said, for entering into the license agreement on the trail in 1983. That's a lot of years that the community has been able to enjoy that trail. I also would like to thank the ad hoc committee members, Chair Skay and Director Bill De La Pena, for your input and work throughout this process. I know it's been a long process, and thank you for your guidance and input throughout the process. Also, I want to thank Mayor Bill De La Pena again. She was the first person who was contacted by the Rasnow family over 4 years ago. And just thank you for your dedication to moving this project forward over all these years. I know it's been long. Again, this is a critical and valuable step in the city's efforts to acquire open space and complete the ring of open space around the city over the last 40 years. And I'm available for questions.
We do have, Tina Rasnow has a speaker card in, and I suggest that we hear Tina before we have board questions. Ms. Rasnow, please come to the podium.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the board. I'm sorry I came here with a cough, so I've got tea and a lot of cough drops. And I wanted to thank Shelley for doing such a wonderful job in giving the history. There's just a couple of things that I want to just correct for the record or clarify. The involuntary merger that sunsetted in 1985 that resulted in the merger of the small lots into bigger parcels, it wasn't to facilitate development, it was to limit development. So, because people can always merge their own property to make a larger parcel. So it was actually one of the many things that have been done over time to restrict development on the property on our ranch. And that's was the impetus to make the offer to donate, is that we are paying taxes on land that the public enjoys, whether they're crossing it on the trail or they're just looking at it, but we've borne the tax liability for it, and as well as having the sometimes annoyance of people not staying on the trail. So I'm glad my father passed away in December of 2012 after we made the initial, he was with us when we first made the offer, but I know that this has been a wonderful home he's made for us, and he has always wanted people to enjoy nature as he enjoyed it and as he taught us to. So I feel like we're honoring him and his memory too, to continue with the donation of the land. I don't want to kind of get bogged down in little details. We've had so many meetings over the 4 years, but and I don't even know if it needs to be brought up, but on the other hand, I don't want to miss it and have your figures come up over 500,000 because you're pretty close to it. But we were asked by COSCA to put in on a sealed bid. The county was putting up a land parcel that went for taxes. And because we owned the land around it, we were the only one offered to bid. So COSCA asked us to put the bid in. We did. We purchased it. So we would like to get reimbursed for that. It was promised that we would be reimbursed. And it's going to put your number up slightly over. The price was about $2,500, somewhere around there. So yeah, I just didn't want to leave that out. And the where you've reconfigured the trail, it puts it closer to the road than what we would like, but I understand the limitations. You're working with topography. You're working with these little pockets of lots we don't own. And so my feeling is if you're going to use the fencing to keep people on the trail, then we trust that we'll continue to work together to make sure the ranch is secure and that people are staying on the trail. imagine this relationship is just one we're going to continue to work through and tweak things as needed. So I hope that's the case. And let me check my notes to see if there's anything else. Oh, I should mention, I had a little sad experience last week. A mountain lion killed 5 of my sheep. So I normally pen them up at night, but I've been sick with this nasty respiratory thing, and I was too winded to chase them down. They didn't want to go to bed, so I left them out, and the cat got 5 of them. It was, I'm told, P30, a male mountain lion. So to please get word out to people who ride those trails at night. They're not supposed to be on the trails at night, but they do go on the trails. And we've had, the neighbors down the road had their sheep killed in October. So we're seeing a lot more tracks of mountain lions than we ever used to see. And I just worry about the safety of people who ride by themselves at night or walk or ride their bike on the trails. We have a lot more cats. I think we do. The Park Service is a little cagey about telling you how many cats there are in the area, but we're seeing evidence over the 40-plus years we've lived there. We're seeing a lot more evidence of mountain lions in the last year than we ever used to see. So I just kind of let everybody know that's a concern for people's safety. And I just glad my mom could be here with me. Brian's teaching at the university tonight. He has a physics class. Otherwise, he would be here. And I thank you for your time and the staff time, and for Bill Pham, and he's worked hard with our lawyer. And I hope that we're finally at the last point. So thanks again. Does anyone have questions of me?
Questions of Ms. Rasnow? Thank you so much, Tina. We really appreciate it. And Eleanor, for both of you being here, really appreciate it.
Is it settled? Is it settled? Even today, because I go to Borchard, I do my jazzercise in Borchard, and he works in Borchard. He keeps asking me. The day he asked me again, and I didn't know about the meeting until tonight. Then he asked me, is it settled? Because he rides it all the time with his friends.
And it has been a long process, and we thank you for your patience. Really, it's been this will be a wonderful thing if the rest of the board agrees. Do we have questions of Ms. Mason or any of the other staff? Director Gibson.
Yeah. First of all, I want to extend a lot of gratitude to the Rasnow family, not only for offering this now, but for all the cooperation over the years that you've had with the city, the Park District, and COSCA. You've been very generous, and thank you. A couple of questions for staff. Do we do any ongoing trail maintenance or brush clearing on any part of that trail now?
Yes, we're required to maintain it right now.
Okay, so we have current costs.
Right.
Okay, so the cost we're looking at for ongoing would really, replace current costs. So we've already got some costs.
We do already have some costs. The ownership of the land would require some additional management of just the open space management. But yes, we are already incurring costs.
So we're already doing some of that up there anyway.
Yes.
So even though it may be a bigger number, it's really within the scheme of what we're doing.
Right.
You indicated that upon review of the title reports, I'm assuming that with all the legal attorneys we have every year, we've already looked at we've already ran 2 sets of title reports for them, and for us, we've seen nothing that disturbs us from the title reports and that we've seen already.
That's correct. I mean, we've only seen 4 title reports, and we have 50 properties.
Okay.
So we haven't seen anything that disturbs us yet. That's true.
Okay. But from what we know of the history of the area and the other things up there, we're not suspecting any problems with title.
It's possible there could be issues with title just because there were some. Actually,
maybe.
Why don't I have Bill Pham answer that?
We're paying a lot of money to be here.
Right.
At the moment, we don't see any major issue. The only one issue that has been raised under title is the title report do reference access easement throughout every one of these parcels that are off of the old Ventu map. And when these little parcels were created, there were also these paper roads that were created with these parcels. And under California law, if the intent was to provide access throughout the entire tract from the use of these roads that are on the map, then the owners who still own these parcels that are spread out in between all of our parcels, they would still have the right to make a claim for access to get to their parcel through these roads that are on the map.
And have we seen that with any other parcels that we've picked up there, the same types of rights and claims?
Yes.
So that's not nothing unusual to us. Okay.
No.
All right. No, I think this, again, I want to thank the Rasno family. I want to thank the committee that worked on this. It's been a long time coming, and I'm extremely excited. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments or questions by members of the board or a motion?
Well,
Director Jones.
Yeah, I'd like to echo what Joe just said. I knew Harmon when I guess he was acquiring some of these. We were on a human relations committee together. I don't know if you remember that. We used to meet up at CLC then. And I knew that he was doing this, and I didn't know what his overall objective was. But it's certainly wonderful of you to make this available at no cost other than our transferring costs. I mean, no cost that we're paying you for the land, and I think that's wonderful of you to do it. And I'm rather new to this committee, and I'm not as up to date on all the trail systems that we have as a lot of the members are. But from looking at the map, it looks like this is sort of the missing link for that area. And I think it's wonderful that of your generosity, and also that it is so apropos to completing this ring trail around the city. And I just like to thank you very much for doing that. I know Harmon would be very pleased if he were here, I think.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Anyone? Oh,
Madam Chair?
Yes, Ms. Mason.
I just wanted to respond to a couple of Ms. Rasnow's comments. The sealed bid property reimbursement was part of this deal, and I unfortunately left it out of the staff report. I forgot. But we did ask them to, we had gotten notification of the sealed bid, and only the adjacent property owners could buy it. So we didn't own adjacent property, but we knew that it was a parcel that we wanted to acquire. So they graciously purchased it with the understanding that we would reimburse them for it. So that should have been included in the budget, actually. So I think it's about $2,500 that you said. Yeah. Apologize for leaving that out. And then we will work with the Rasnow family to prevent access of our trail users onto their road using fencing. And we can put in the initial fencing that we discussed, and then if there are issues in other areas, then we can certainly work on point basis to install additional fencing. And then we'll also spread the word that the trails are closed at dark, and we do try to make that known that our trails are open, or only during the light times, but sometimes people do use the trails up there. I know it's unfortunately we don't have patrol in the evening, so that's the problem, but we will certainly advise the public of that.
Could I ask a question on that?
Sure.
I don't know if there's a liability involved, but in light of the testimony and kind of what we know to be, are there signs up there that basically warn people at night if you go hiking, there could be a mountain lion issue?
I don't think we have any mountain lion signs up there, but we do have signs that say that we're only open from sunrise to sunset. But we could put new signs up. Sure.
It may be helpful to give somebody hey, this is why we tell you not to hike at night, because you might become food.
Yeah,
and to give the lions a break so that they can hunt deer.
Yeah, right.
Hopefully not sheep.
That might. I know people, if they don't know, that's probably not in their mind that there's actually wildlife up there that could be very dangerous. That a sign warning folks that at night.
We can add those signs to our kiosks, and we can also post it on Facebook. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, because I guarantee if we had an incident, that would get everybody's attention, but then it's too late.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
They're big.
Picture's worth 1,000 words, as they say. Anyway, I don't think you need direction, but I mean, there's some thought should be put into that so we can avoid maybe a really bad outcome.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Okay.
And
Yes, Claudia.
I did not realize that P30 is roaming around in your neighborhood. That is actually big news. I'm glad that you're sharing that information. I think it would be very worthwhile to add signage along the trail to stay out. Mm-hmm.
So this whole, all these years, there's no problem. And this is why we pass around, then they are telling you what it is in all these years.
True. I saw a mountain lion once hiking up Tarantula Hill, and I called it in. That one was really lost. I would like to, as a member of the ad hoc committee, I would like to express my sincerest gratitude to you, Eleanor, Tina, Brian, and the entire Rasnow family, and your attorney, Mrs. Macri Ortiz, is it? Yes? Oh, you're not her. Okay. Okay, you're not. Okay, very good. For Barbara. This, as has been mentioned already tonight, is the missing link, and I am just tickled that you made the offer to the city and COSCA to donate a whopping 82 acres of open space. Over the last 4.5 years, we've had many meetings, many discussions, worked out the details with the help of various staff from all of our attorneys, Felicia and Patrick, and the attorney, Bill Pham, Mark Town, Shelley, Rory. It's been a interesting journey to get to tonight, and obviously your father, your husband, had a vision by collecting all of these parcels, and that vision is, it seems to me, hopefully now coming to fruition, which is to protect nature and to protect the open space. Exactly. Never wanted to develop that. There you go. There you go. So I'm just so very excited that we are here tonight and hopefully voting in the affirmative to move forward with this to present to the council and the Conejo Recreation and Park District Board. And with that said, with my deepest gratitude, I would like to make the motion to approve staff recommendations.
Very good. We have a motion?
I'd like to second it, but I'd like to ask the maker of the motion to include in the staff recommendation the reimbursement.
Yes, I think that, that will be part of it because that was an agreement. So I'm absolutely certain as that will be part of it.
Then I'll second the motion.
All right. Any discussion on the motion? Well, I think without further ado, we'll call for the question. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. I can't imagine there are any nays or abstentions. Thank you. Thank you very much. It's a very big day. And now on to the City Council, right? Okay. I think we have the Strategic Plan Annual Report to go. Oh, actually, before we go, I also want a special thank you to Bill Pham for his assistance, and Patrick, who worked so hard on this too.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In June 2013, the board approved the COSCA strategic plan. At the heart of the plan is the implementation actions table, which lists the actions needed to accomplish COSCA's objectives and the anticipated time frame for completion. The original implementation table is included in your packet as attachment 2 on page 33. The strategic plan recommends annual status reports on implementation progress of the strategic plan. Attachment number 1, beginning on page 25 of your packet, identifies progress made on action items in the ongoing and years 1 through 4 timeframes. As you can see, staff has made progress on a number of important projects in 2016. Some highlights include we finalized the Rasno acquisition agreement, acquired 6 new parcels totaling 8.61 acres as open space, secured a trail easement in the Glider Hill area and are working to secure a second trail easement. We significantly increased COSCA's social media presence with 828 likes on the Facebook page, getting close to 1,000, and reaching up to 5,300 people with some of our posts. We're actively planning and implementing habitat restoration projects in the Conejo Canyons and Wildwood, and working to preserve a population of endangered Bronton's milk vetch by facilitating mitigation in the North Ranch open space. We're actively developing a non-native plant management plan and working on developing the new COSCA website. Staff will continue to focus on implementing the strategic plan, and I am available for questions.
So impressive. Questions of Ms. Mason? This was simply a receive report. It's very impressive what you've been able to do in a year with a limited staff. Go all those volunteers, right?
Thank you.
That's fantastic. Okay. Then next we have informational items. 40th anniversary. I can't believe it. COSCA's 40th anniversary. Anna, you have this one?
Yes, isn't it amazing? Thank you, Madam Chair. As you all know, COSCA is celebrating its 40th anniversary this year, and in acknowledgement of that milestone and to honor the environmental conservation that has occurred during the past 4 decades, we're planning a variety of events, including an open space-inspired art and photography show. We're planning to sponsor one of CRPD's concerts in the park and a movie night at McRae Ranch. Our Open Space Challenge this year will be accompanied by an Instagram photo contest. We'll have an anniversary celebration at our Fall Trail Workday Lunch, and we're having monthly open space appreciation hikes. We'll be doing a special geocaching event with a special 40th anniversary geocoin. We'll be having wildflower hikes, and we'll be hosting a booth at Arbor Earth Day, and we're also hoping to get coverage by KCLU and the Thousand Oaks Acorn. And certainly if the board has any suggestions for additional activities, please let us know. And once we have the event schedule finalized, we'll be posting it on the COSCA website and announcing it on our Facebook page.
Fantastic. Okay. How about this? I love the new dog walker brochure. Can you describe that?
Yes, certainly. In an effort to better remind our open space visitors about the responsibilities associated with bringing dogs on hikes, we developed the guide brochure included in your packets on page 44. In addition to placing the brochures at our trailhead kiosks, COSTAC volunteers are also distributing them to the Conejo Valley veterinarians and pet supply stores.
Okay. Arbor Earth Day.
As in years past, COSCA will again be hosting a booth at Arbor Earth Day this April in conjunction with the booths being hosted by the Conejo Open Space Foundation and CRPD. And as a special giveaway item this year to celebrate the 40th anniversary, we'll be offering Valley Oak seedlings that have been propagated from acorns collected from the heritage oaks here at City Hall.
Great. Very good.
And I'm available for questions.
Any questions of Ms. Huber? Thank you so much. Shelley, you're going to sit in for Matt Kuba tonight on the Ranger Operations Report.
Yes, thank you, Chair Skay. Unfortunately, Matt could not be here tonight. I know he's always fun to listen to, so I'll try to keep this fun too. He prepared this PowerPoint and wanted me to let you know that due to recent rains, we have been working on keeping the open space safe for visitors and for the resources. So we want to remind all trail users to protect the trails and don't hike when it's wet. And certainly don't go into Wildwood when it's wet or when there are high water flows. Okay, we are doing a pilot porta potty project in the parking lot at Wildwood. This is the
Very
main
euphonious.
Yeah. We've had, that usage at Wildwood is through the roof, and we've had some issues with people using the open space as a toilet. So this is very necessary right now, and so we're going to start with a porta potty and see how that goes, and see what we need to do. But for now, we're going to just see if this fits the bill. So it's there at Wildwood as we speak. There are also the restrooms, of course, at Wildflower Playfield, but it seems like those are a little bit too far for people to go, unfortunately. So we're trying to close the entry gate out the main Wildwood trailhead at night, but because of the high usage and because people park in every square inch of the parking lot, a lot of times the gates are blocked, so they can't be closed when they need to be closed. There you can see all these cars. And this is 8 a.m. on a recent Monday morning, if you can believe that. This is the Wildwood Trailhead packed on a Monday. It's crazy. On the weekends, they're parked throughout the neighborhood, too. So, yeah, good question. And this is a ranger dedication picture. The rangers worked to clear a drainage that was plugged with debris. COSCA and CRPD staff worked to clear it. And
is he diving? Does he have a wetsuit on?
Yeah, I don't think he had to go under, but all the way under, but
Yikes.
I think he has waders on.
Okay.
Yeah.
And where was this taken?
I'm not actually sure. I didn't get an answer back on that question. I can get back to you on that. But yeah, it's pretty dramatic looking, isn't it? So the Rangers are dedicated, obviously. And then this, speaking of the 40th anniversary and sponsoring a movie at the McRae Ranch, Flaming Star, an Elvis movie, was filmed in Wildwood. Yeah. So maybe we'll screen that at McRae Ranch. We'll see. Wouldn't that be fun? Have you guys all seen that?
Oh, yeah, I've seen that movie.
Elvis in Wildwood.
And I'm available for questions.
Any questions or comments for Ms. Mason? Okay, any board member comments?
I have one.
Yes, Director Fox.
I know we're going to adjourn tonight in memory of Mr. Greenway, but I think we'd be remiss if we didn't just at least recognize the passing of Francis Prince on Sunday.
Already on the radar.
I believe there'll be a newspaper article, but for those in the community that had not heard, Frances says she passed away on Sunday after an illness. I had the opportunity to visit her on Friday, and like always, in great spirits. For those in the community that may not be aware, Frances was the first woman elected to the Thousand Oaks City Council. She served was elected in '76 and served as mayor a couple of times. I think it's appropriate because I think we could check it, but I believe she was one of the original members of COSCA.
She was the original member and the original chairperson, yes.
There you go. So
and she and Dearest Granholm on the Park District side really formed the nucleus with Tex to actually get COSCA going.
Exactly. She was really a pioneer in this community and in many ways shaped many of the conversations we have here at COSCA. She was one of the very first open space activists and did a lot for our community in a lot of ways. Executive Director of Senior Concerns, accomplished attorney, really the list goes on and on, devoted wife and mother. I think Frances will be best remembered by many in the community as a lady of class, of dignity, of intellect, and of love of community. And so I just wanted to point out to the community of her passing. I'm sure there'll be other things said. I know we're going to do something at the city council, but given her influence on COSCA, I think it was important to acknowledge that.
Absolutely. She was my role model, and I'll miss her dearly. And she also was the chairperson of the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy as designee of then Supervisor Ed Jones. She really helped form, as you said, our Caneo Open Space and Greater Southern California conservation vision. So she was amazing. So we will be adjourning the meeting in honor of Francis Prince, and we will also be adjourning in memory of Frank Greenway, who some of you may remember is a very long time trail activist, especially on accessibility issues for wheelchair users and others. He was a stalwart. Any other comments? Yes, Director Jones.
Yeah, I just appreciate what Andy just said. I had the good fortune of meeting her a long time ago when she helped me get elected to the Thousand Oaks City Council back in 1970. I met them when they were trying to fight the proposed development that Andy reminded of me not long ago across the street, which now is Wildwood Playfield of about 20 acres, which could have been apartments and condos or whatever. So that's how I met her. And she was very active in the Homeowners Association at that time. And I do know that she was instrumental in forming COSCA, representing the city. And as was pointed out, Doris Granholm was the major one. I was on the Board of Supervisors then, so I didn't have anything to do with it. But I observed what was going on, and I was very proud that was happening. I had no idea that COSCA would mushroom and amount to all that it does today. It was a wonderful idea. And in those days, the reason that the Park District formed in '63 and then the city right after was that we were having all these developments and no land was being donated, and we were wondering where the school's going to come from, where the parks and so forth. So it was a very harmonious beginning of this city, and I think we've kept up the good work since that time. But I would just echo what was said about Fran. She was one of the ones that was just one of the stalwarts, and I always had the impression that she was a little smarter than everybody else.
Yes,
I don't know if you had
that. But so gracious, she didn't let on that.
And she and Harvey were really a pair because he was wild and she was a little more staid, but she laughed at his jokes, and they were a great pair. I was very sad when Harvey left us a long time ago, and she soldiered on and did a great job. She was, after her council day, she went back to law school and became a lawyer. I mean, I just marvel at all that she accomplished, and I think it's very appropriate. We adjourn in her honor. I hope we adjourn the CRPD meeting next week in her honor, and I presume the city may do the same. But I just say cheers for Frances Prince. This city and valley would not nearly be as good as it is if we hadn't had her presence.
You're here.
Thank you.
All right. Yes, Claudia.
Yeah, those are wonderful comments about one of our great pillars of our community. I wanted to mention that that is the reason why the flag at municipal buildings is flying at half staff. It is done in her memory, and yes, the City Council on February 14th will adjourn in her memory. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Well, with that, thank you all so much for being here and for a very successful meeting. And again, we adjourn in memory of Frances Prince and Frank Greenway. Good night.